Well, here we are again. I did not expect to be doing another stream, so I'm just going to check the audio, see if that's alright. Alright, and it seems that we're good to go. Okay. Alright, I missed the first few minutes of the tweet storm because I was setting up the stream again. So let's make a few tweets. Alright. Let me grab the URL of the stream. Here it is. Okay. Wait a second. Delete that, because it doesn't have the hashtag. Yeah, okay. There we go. That's a bit better. Alright, let's see what Christopher's up to. I've heard about this. Let's have a look at this. Actually, I don't think my desktop audio is working. As I said before, this was a very... I didn't intend to stream today. Just pause that for a sec. Alright, I'm gonna go back to the start. And we can listen to this together. So this is a cover of the official Bring the Thunder track that we created for the first Tweet Storm. Enjoy.
The bard saw the words within his mind, dragons and danger lurking inside. It was the story of our youth. The sly fox said he could tell that truth. Of those beloved words brought to life, but then the clouds rolled in, riding the winds of change. And they brought the thunder. We saw them perform upon the stage, but nothing like the story we knew. So we think it's time for a new script, made only from those beloved words. And now we're full of hope and wonder as those dark clouds roll in, riding the winds of change. We will bring the thunder. We'll bring the thunder.
Wow, very cool. The creativity of the community always amazes me. It's very nicely done. Oh, look, people are still using the old, all the media from the previous tweet storm. This is pretty cool. Pretty cool to see. I'm just going to join the general chat in the MCAlagaesia Discord server. If people want to join me there, they can. You will be on the stream if you do. I realize I've just been silent for the past few minutes. I'm sorry. Um, let me know what I should talk about.
Hi, I'm
Hello,
Liz.
welcome. It sounds like I can hear the stream through someone's audio.
What?
Someone who joined the Discord chat, I could hear the stream from their side, but it looks like it's fixed
Yeah,
now.
I had it here, but yes, voice is down now, so yeah. Silence.
Everyone, if you use the hashtag in all your replies as well, that will help. So make sure to use the hashtag in all your replies like this. And let
Yes,
people know as well.
okay. I have done. So yeah.
So this is Maxime's new piece for the second tweet storm. That detail is amazing. It really does look like concept art for like a video game or a movie.
Wow. That is wow. Yes, you got it. Like she's a stayed cool. Wow.
Hello.
Hello there.
Hey.
General Kenobi.
Welcome to the stream.
How is everyone going? Um. So is this on like on the live stream on YouTube?
It is, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what were you talking about before I joined?
We're just looking at some concept by Maxime. Concept art by Maxime. This one here.
Yeah. Wait. Let me get the live stream. Oh yeah. Okay. Okay.
Wow. I'm going to go full screen again. This looks like a render. This is the knuckle bones, Angela's knuckle bones. She's doing a... Oh, I think it's actually a picture because this looks like a...
Those look really
Yeah,
nice.
that's really cool. This is very well done. I'm going to retweet that as well.
Right. Okay. Buồn.
I think this one's going pretty well. This tweet storm, we've got tweets coming in every second. Look at that. If you want me to have a look at your tweets, make sure you mention me so I can see them because things are happening very fast, as they did last time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm 1 minute behind. Yeah.
But I can't look at the live stream because like I'm on my phone and there is an echo. It's really disturbing.
You can just mute one of them. You can either mute Discord or mute the live stream, and that should work.
Yeah, but the live stream is late with Discord. Like, there's a delay between the two.
By the way, do you think there will be more French tweets this time?
Don't know, maybe. But it's better if we keep them in English, I think, because more people will see them.
Mm.
Actually, is it true that Paolini really found out about this like well 5 minutes before?
Yes, it is correct. He did not know.
Oh.
It was.
Wow.
It was. I mean, he might have known if someone sent him a message, but it was all done by word of mouth, so there was no public announcement at all.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Actually, I guess we should keep it non-spoiler here, but I was wondering something. If there is a TV show, do you think we will get a special episode about ants?
A special episode
About what?
about what?
About
Sorry.
the ants. With ants. Sorry, I have a very bad English accent.
That's all right.
When the ants. Sorry, my accent.
That's
you
right.
know,
Do you want
When
to spell it
everyone's
out?
training.
Because I think it sounds like you're saying Ents from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
No.
wrong books.
No, I'm not saying ants. I'm saying ant, like the
Oh,
when explaining the ants. Yeah,
the little bugs.
Ant.
ant. Yes, ant. Sorry.
Oh, whatever.
I was. So we could have like a 45-minute episode about ant fighting spiders. I guess some people will run away from this episode if it ever comes out.
So what's trending at the moment?
Not the. I think the remake isn't trending.
Not trending yet.
Yeah.
Need to find some more things to reply to.
Actually, on my trending in France, so in the French tweet, in my trending, the first one is one hashtag asking for president to step down. So
Yeah, but like with the Olympic Games, it will be complicated to start trending, I think.
Hello, hello.
Hello there.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to the stream.
Yeah, thank you. I just thought I would pop in for a bit, see how's everyone's doing while watching the stream.
I think we're all doing very well. Of course, it's a tweet storm, so you know.
Yeah, exactly. It's it's almost a tradition now. Yeah, I saw that the event was planned. I forgot when I saw it, and I thought, oh wait, I need to make something for this real quick.
And you did a very good job at it.
Thank you very much. It was intense. I'm not entirely happy with it, but you know what? It's something.
It was nice to have it there.
Yeah.
Let me find it again. Here it is.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for the. I'm glad everyone seems to like it, and I saw that some people.
Whoa! Oh, hold on. I didn't even realize it was a mock-up of Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Series 1, Episode 4.
Yeah. Which is why I was asking earlier, like, when do you think this moment would have been in the books in terms of, how at which section, which portion of the books would this moment happen? Because in my mind, it was approximately at a third of the book, kind of. So yeah, it was. I think episode 4 sounds right-ish.
Yeah, probably. I mean,
something like that.
Maybe like episode 2, because I don't think they want to do like a 20 episode season. So they're gonna have to
Yeah,
compress it into like 10 episodes.
that could definitely work as well. Yeah, I went like with the assumption of maybe 10 to 12 episodes. So I was like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
maybe episode 4 is. But yeah, episode 2, episode 3 as well.
Of course, and it
Pretty well.
depends how many seasons there are.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. I had to Photoshop because I couldn't find the specific font for the text on top, right? So I had to screen capture it from Disney Plus and like copy paste. I had to like contour the letters that I needed from other shows and
No.
mix it together to get the word Brizinger. Yeah, but hey, worth it. uh, I find it funny that once again, Christopher didn't know about this.
Didn't know last time too.
I think he knew
Yeah,
last time.
he didn't.
Yeah, he did know last time. Like, we were talking with
I mean,
him.
he knew, but he once again he wasn't the one organizing it, so it was
Yeah.
By the way,
he knew
by, sorry. By the way, what is the count? Does someone already have some tweet count? How many tweets?
I have no idea. That is a very good question. I'll have to check that out in a bit. So how did everyone here start reading the Aragon books? What's your relationship to these books? How did it happen?
A friend gave me the first, like the Aragon book. It was 6 years ago, I think, and I loved them. I read the whole cycle in not even a month, I think.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and 2 months ago, I bought them back because, like the one I read 6 years ago, it wasn't my books; it was my friend's book. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to have
Yes.
your own physical.
Yeah.
So, for me, it's a little different if I remember well. So basically, my grandmother wanted to buy me book for my birthday, and she basically first took me the whole Twilight series when I was 10, and then she realized it was maybe not my age or not interesting for me. So instead, she bought me Aragon.
Well, that was an amazing decision.
Yes. But at the end, I finally read Twilight also, but not the same year. Because at the
I'm
time,
lucky though.
I think I was maybe 8 or 10, I don't remember. It was like a long time ago.
A little young for
2008,
Twilight.
2010.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't even remember how old I was when I first read the books.
I think I was 11 or something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, well, 10, 11, and I saw it in a library, and I took it because the name was so close to Dragon, so yeah, and I loved it, and here I am.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
And
If
actually,
Christopher stick with Kevin, you wouldn't have read the book.
I also have told to my two friends about it, and the other one is here with me.
Mhm.
And yeah,
That's
we are
great. That's
doing
really
good.
cool. I think a lot of people started reading the book thanks to friends. Hey,
For me, I was.
introduced. Yeah,
Oh no, go ahead. I would like to hear your story.
I was just gonna say I introduced 2 or 3 friends to the books as well, and they loved it as well. But yeah, go on.
So for me personally, when I was in middle school, so like year 7, 8, I would always read the Harry Potter series in the library. And when I finished Deathly Hallows, I would go back to the Philosopher's Stone, and one of the librarians noticed and said, "Why do you keep reading the same series? How about you try this?" And it was the Inheritance Cycle. So that's when I first read it.
Sick. That's amazing. I just imagine, I mean, in my mind, it's so much more fantastical than it probably is. Like, I imagine this old librarian, showing you these amazing,
Yeah.
glittering books. Like, read this.
Yes. They were holding a lantern. They had leather-bound
Exactly.
tomes under their arm.
Your
And they
eyes are
said,
shining as the books
"These are
approach
from the
you.
restricted section."
Your life will change
Actually,
after this.
actually, I was thinking about something because this kind of thing like tweet in one tweet make a bad resume of Aragon. Like maybe we should start a thread like that, just to. So for me, it will be like some an hunter guy that became vegan after finding an egg. Basically, more or less, not vegan, but
Yeah. He went into the lives of ants and he was like, yeah, no, this is I cannot anymore, man. Look at all these animals.
Vegan time.
maybe you can start a thread with that, and we just like quote this.
I mean, hey, if you want a bad version of the books, just watch the movie.
No. Well.
No.
I remember. It's actually funny because I read the books and I loved them a lot as a kid. And when the movie came out in the cinema, unfortunately I missed it. So then it came out in DVD, and I kept annoying my dad about it. I was like, "Oh, please, can you buy me the Aragon DVD? I want to watch the movie. I swear it's
Oh
so
no.
good. Like the books are amazing."
No.
Yeah, and I was telling my dad like, "Oh, you
You
need to
poor
watch
child.
it with me." Exactly. And so he bought me the thing, and I was super excited. And we watched the movie with my dad, and I think my soul just got crushed. I was like, "No, what is happening?" And my dad was like, he couldn't really understand what was happening, but I was like, "No, you don't understand. Like, this isn't what I read. It's so much better than this." Sorry.
Yeah.
I remember. Yeah.
But that gives you the drive to campaign for an Aragon remake.
Exactly. This is why I'm here.
I think it was 5 years ago, something like that. I was in a garage sale and I saw the Aragon movie, and like I wanted to buy it, but my parents were like, "No, we're not going to buy this. You have already enough." And I think they saved me because otherwise I would died.
There you go. Good on them. Good on them. They had a feeling.
I remember. I found about it 4 or 3 years ago, and I wanted to watch it. So my mom borrowed it from library, and I was just like, no, every second movie, but my family members, they didn't understand because
Mhm.
they have to read the book, so yeah, and they still think that it's a good movie. And
Wait.
well,
Get a bit closer to your phone. It's cutting off.
okay, so what part did you hear?
Oh man, I I wish I understood more of that. We missed a lot of it because it keeps cutting off. But it sounds like a great story. Okay. I'm so sorry.
My
Uh,
microphone isn't the
yeah, I think
best.
it's the internet as well because we're all from different areas of the world, so
Mm,
I think we
Yeah.
all
can
have a
we do?
different connection to the server.
Oh, actually,
Yes.
it's my net because well, I have 104.
Hmm.
Bar. No, yeah, no, okay. It was 2. Okay, I will just connect to Wi-Fi.
Oh well. I wonder if Christopher is busy or not.
Well,
He was answering to some of the tweets, but
since
I
he
think
didn't know about it, I don't think he set aside time specifically for it.
yes,
Yeah, exactly.
and I don't think if he can keep if he can keep coming here, we will never get some other books.
That's right. That's right. Awesome. Well, yeah, I just wanted to pop in and say hi. I might come back later, actually. Unfortunately, I've still got things to do. I literally had to create this artwork in between other projects. So
Oh.
yeah. But yeah, you guys have fun, and I'll be keeping an eye on the stream and all the tweets and stuff. So yeah. And by the way, thanks again for organizing
Yeah,
the event
thanks.
again.
No problem.
Really nice of you.
Oh, there is people tweeting about the live stream. So I'm just seeing a tweet saying that listening to the Aragon remake Tweetstorm live stream, and they are talking about how they discovered the series. So I'm quoting Jackie Thomas. For me, I was in 5th grade, 2004-2005, and saw a friend reading Aragon. I went and found it in the school library and fell in love. So basically, there are people listening to us. I don't know how many, but some of them. How many viewers are on the stream? I think something like 8 the last time I looked.
Okay, Christopher just messaged me. Maybe we'll do a few minutes of streaming with him.
Oh,
Nice.
yeah.
That would be fun.
Yes.
So when will he come on the live stream?
It's a very cool piece of fan art.
Hmm. Wow.
Alright, so I'm going to just join... Okay, no. Christopher is just getting ready. He needs
Okay.
to get a new pair of headphones. So
Okay.
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 hopefully we don't have any Discord issues like we did last time. But I mean, it's working with all of you guys, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, but like I'm not home. I'm outside. But yeah, it works fine for me.
Alright guys, I will catch you later. Feel free to keep chatting in
Okay.
there, and I'll come back later.
Okay.
Okay. See you later.
Christopher!
Hey, can you hear me?
I can, and it sounds like the stream can hear you too. I'll just send out that tweet, actually.
All right. Discord seems to be using the wrong microphone here. 1 second.
Okay, that's alright.
Okay, now I can hear you properly.
Oh, excellent.
Yay.
And it looks like it's all working on my end this time, so I'm happy about that.
So awesome. I knew this. I had a inkling that the tweet storm was going to be happening, but I did not realize you'd be streaming again today. So
I didn't even plan to stream, but there were some people who wanted me to stream, so I thought I'll spend the time to get it set up, and then I started. So
very cool. Well, I'm, as always, delighted and amazed by the enthusiasm of all the fans. Let's see, you're going to tweet out the stream?
I just need to get the link. There it is.
Yeah, so someone asked on Twitter, or mentioned on Twitter, they really liked the bit where Garjavog and Aragon, when they're going to the Bjor Mountains, and they use heated stones to boil food in the stomach of a cave bear. And yeah, using an animal's stomach as a cooking container actually has a long history, and works pretty well. It actually, if you're doing like a stew or something, it protects the lining of the stomach from if you're using hot rocks or something like that.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that, because I thought it might have just been the extra thick, strong stomach of those Bjor mountains.
You could do it with deer stomach, elk stomach.
Yeah.
1 second, I'm gonna retweet.
That's really cool. Drawing inspiration from the real world.
Always.
And it's unique to the Urgals too. Do the dwarves or humans use that sort of technology?
I mean, they might have at some point, but it really is the sort of thing you do when you don't have an easy container to use. Think about it. Containers are kind of hard to get out in the wilderness.
Yeah,
so
and to move around as well. Something that collapses is very convenient when you're camping.
Exactly. I mean, that's why you always hear talk about like wine skins or bladders being used for transporting liquids. Because I mean, think about it. You're out in the wilderness. How do you make a container? You might be able to make like a clay pot or something, but those are heavy. They're fragile. You can make wooden containers, but they don't handle liquids super well, and you have to worry about rot and maggots and things like that. There's a reason why. What did they call it? Trench mouth or something? Oh, there's trench foot, but there's something you get from eating from wooden containers. And yeah, how to hold stuff is really a really big problem. That's why glass was such a big invention, because it's sterile and relatively easy to make, and you can put it into any shape. It is fragile, though, of course.
It is, yeah.
If you've ever had a chance to like hold an old wine bottle, like a really old European wine bottle, they're really thick. It's untempered glass. The walls are thick. It's actually pretty chunky.
Mm-hmm. I don't think I have held one, but I'm imagining it.
Yeah, I mean, not all of them, but some of them definitely they went for size to sort of compensate for a lack of strength. And now, of course, we have tempered glass and borosilicate glass, I think that's what it's called, and stuff like that, which is really strong. That's the I'm forgetting the name of the cookware, but you can bake stuff in the glassware, or at least put really hot stuff in it.
Also, Maxime will be available in a few minutes to join, like he did last time, if you're interested.
Sure. I'm happy to answer questions too if anyone has them in the chat. We can talk about Aragon stuff or Fractalverse stuff, or we can talk about Minecraft.
So, my question, do Äfthringa Frethyaí? I probably butchered that pronunciation, but what do you think that means? I had to make up some of those words based on the grammar of the ancient language.
Let me look it up. I have to actually. I don't handle stuff very well verbally. I have to see it.
Yeah,
written
that's right.
out, so I'm gonna look at your tweet here. Well, 1 second. I did. Okay. Well, Frethyaí is definitely friend, and Äfthringa. I'm having to go off memory here because I don't have my files in front of me. I want to say it's thunder, but I could be wrong. What were you going for?
I'm just bringing up the ancient language list that I used.
Yeah, that's what I don't have in front of me. I actually now I'm going to bring it up also. All right, languages.
So
Translation.
Frethyaí is hide, and then I used the I'm not sure what the exact word for it is, but the I with the sort of tilde shape makes it a past tense, so it's hidden, or I sort of interpreted that as secret. Thringa is you're close with thunder. It's storm.
Rain.
Rain. But I added the prefix af to give it negative connotations to make it more like storm instead of rain. So it's the secret storm. That's my interpretation.
I think you did a good job of that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know why I was thinking that was friend then. Oh, it's for Kea. That's why. Brain fart. My brain has not been in ancient language for a while, although I'm gearing up for it again. I'm not going to tell you what for.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, like if you're not using the language every day, it would fade from your mind, understandably.
Well, and it has some complicated aspects.
It does. It's just like any language, really.
Yeah, and it got more complicated, the further along I went with it. So there are definitely some things I would like to do with it that I haven't done before, and not just the ancient language, also the Dwarvish and the Urgal language.
I would love to see that. I'm just about to add Malte and Maxime back in, so we might drop out for a second. Okay, it looks like we're still here.
Awesome. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. And there's Malte.
Hey, Malta.
Greetings. I just saw the stream and thought I'd chime in.
Your volume is extremely soft, Malta. Can you make it any louder?
Wait a moment. I guess I can.
If you also right-click on his face, you can also drag his volume up to adjust it on your own end as well.
There
Yeah,
we go.
yeah.
Perfect.
So, Malte, what did you think of the cover of Bring the Thunder that was created? I can't remember who did it. Let me bring up the tweet.
I was super surprised. I love that it happened, and I really, really like the take they had on it. The mood is really cool. It is really this not this huge arrangement I had or we had in mind. It's much more intimate, much more subtle, and the electric guitar was very tasteful, I think.
Did you know they were working on it?
No. I saw it literally, an hour ago when they posted about it.
So it was made by @Stronghammer, and at Splendor807.
Oh, I think they did
Yeah.
an awesome job. I have really been impressed by the amount of fan art that's been
I know.
sort of pouring out ever since I started doing the fan art Fridays back. I think it was October, November when I started doing them, and it took a little while to get some traction. But now, I mean, every week there's something new out there.
Yeah, it's dope. Especially
was really-
considering like it's 1 month since the last storm, and I just thought that everyone just brought their art out there, and now merely 4 weeks after this, we have new art again.
Yeah, and I actually yesterday I was doing fan art Friday on Saturday because I sort of
Wait, that's
slipped on my
illegal.
schedule. I know I slipped on my schedule because having a baby does tend to mess with your sleep. But I reposted this amazing tattoo that this fan got. He has Saphira on his chest, along with I think it might be Shuriken, and then the Fractalverse logo and the Brissinger symbol. I mean, all of this all together. I mean, it's just such an amazing tattoo, and the fact that he's so invested in the series and the worlds that I've been writing is, I mean, with all of these things, it continues to amaze me.
Hello, hello.
Hello, Maxime. Welcome to the stream.
Hey. Yeah, hi again.
Good to hear you. So, do we have any questions in the chat? Anyone?
I need to open it up again, actually.
Let me check my notifications, see if anyone's...
How's everyone doing? Once again, wasn't expecting to be on this call today, but here we go again.
No.
I was not expecting it either.
Life is strange.
Since I haven't done any real interviews since the last tweet storm, so I can now. It's a little difficult because there's professional. There are certain standards of professional behavior in Hollywood and elsewhere that I have to respect, and you don't want to put too much out in the world until something is certain. But as I tweeted after the last tweet storm, I did hear back from Disney through official channels, and unfortunately, at that time, they said that they were impressed by the tweet storm, but they've invested a lot of money in their current shows, and until they're out of pandemic footing, they're not willing to commit to something as expensive as Aragon. But that shouldn't dissuade anyone from participating in these tweet storms, because it really does make a huge, huge difference. I have noticed an enormous difference in the fan base, but also in, I want to say, the leverage that this is giving me in Hollywood and elsewhere. We've had all of these other fan bases who've participated in tweet storms and big pushes to get stuff remade over the years, and the Inheritance fandom, Alagaesians, really haven't roared. They haven't put their foot down before, and the fact that we have, and they have, you guys have really made people sit up and pay attention and realize just how big this fandom is and how passionate it is, and that's, that is really valuable and really, really impressive.
It's amazing. I'm honestly impressed every time just looking at all the stuff that comes out of it. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of heartwarming in a way.
Yeah, same, and it. I think it really proves this fandom is as big, if not bigger, than a lot of the other ones out there.
It's also very friendly. Like it's
and I've worked really
like
hard.
a big family.
Yeah, and I've worked really hard to try to foster a positive, environment over the years, because I've seen fandoms where it kind of turns mean, and I don't really I don't want to work in that sort of environment. I don't think anyone really wants that for the fandom. So to
would
me,
be
it's been
sad.
very important to always have a positive interaction with my readers, and I think that I think that the fans have reciprocated, readers have reciprocated. That the energy you put out there is what comes back.
Mm-hmm. No, that's very true. Oh,
someone
man.
just tweeted some of the Italian covers, which had shiny foil backgrounds behind the dragons. That's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, I see them in the stream. That's... Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if they ended up doing that for the whole series. I know they did it for the first two books. They've had a bunch of different editions in Italy. I might have mentioned on the last stream, the books were so popular in Italy, they actually published published spoof versions of both Aragon and Eldest there.
Oh.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
in fact, I have one of them right here. Let's see. I have so much stuff on my shelves. Here it is. So the first spoof was called Aerosol, the brother of Aragon, the not so smart brother of Aragon. Written by Joey Luke Bandini, which is like the most Italian name you could ever come up with. And so he does things like so instead of riding a giant dragon, Aerosol rides a giant blue turkey, and all of like the elven songs and poems are all replaced with lyrics from pop songs. So like raindrops are falling on my head and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
How have I never heard about this? This is so random. Oh,
Yeah, and
God.
like the map for the world is like this hand scribbled like child's map, and even the author Joey Luke Bandini, he has his own like specialized monogram where the letters of his name are done kind of like J.R.R. Tolkien's symbol. So yeah, I've posted pictures about it before, but anyway, all of which is to say that the books have been very popular in Italy.
That's great. That's actually really funny.
I wish I could read you some of the Italian, but my Italian pronunciation is horrific. So my German is better than my Italian, which should tell you something.
I see here that there are actually 2 questions in the chat. Yeah.
Ask away.
I don't know who wants to read them out loud.
Well, I have one of them here. I'm not sure if it's the same ones you're looking at. If I remember correctly, you said that you based the forging of Brisinga on a forging book. What was that book called?
I did. I'm just looking to see if I have it in front of me. No, it's over in my other office. So yeah, there is a great book called The Art of the Japanese Sword. I believe that's the title, and I'm pretty sure I listed this in the acknowledgments of Brissinger as one of the inspirations. And then there's another book called The Modern Blacksmith, which is another useful resource. And then I had some experience of my own doing some pretty rudimentary metalworking, but I built myself a couple of forges growing up and made various. 1 second. Now I got to retweet some meme.
Well, that's the most important thing.
Yeah. What was addressed in the? Someone it really. So let me finish that. So those were some of the resources, and I actually had to cut down a fair bit of the process so that the scene with making Brissinger didn't drag on for another 20 pages. But the general big rough strokes are all correct as far as I know. And I know when the Man at Arms show, when they made their replica of Brissinger, the guy who was working on the blade actually mentioned that the techniques were interesting and accurate. So I kind of mixed some Japanese techniques with some Western metalworking techniques, but of course the blades themselves that the writers used are not actually made out of steel as we know it. They're made out of ceramic glass, which it is metallic. It's a metallic glass. And this is a real thing. You can look this up, and it's basically a different structure for the structure of the metal, and it makes it more. I don't know if it makes it more flexible. I'm going off hazy memories here, but I know that it makes it much more stronger in terms of tensile strength. It would have increased edge retention. It just makes the material a heck of a lot tougher. And I know it does make it a lot stronger in terms of like resisting bending and that sort of thing. So you could have a fairly thin piece of metallic glass, and it can hold a ridiculous amount of weight without permanent deformation. So that's what the writer's swords are made out of, and that is one of the reasons they're so durable. And that's without even taking in account any magic. So I just wanted to retweet this thing mention this thing about Horst. So a number of people have mentioned about in the last book how Horst never had his debt repaid by Aragon, and also Jode never got to fly on Saphira. Both of those things were in the first draft of Inheritance, and my lovely editor trimmed them out for pacing reasons. And we had a couple of intense discussions about that, and then they ended up, both those elements were left out of the first edition of Inheritance. But I really felt pretty strongly about it, and so when we released the special edition of Inheritance, I put both of those elements back in the story, because Aragon keeps his word, and that felt important to me. And then in subsequent reprints of the regular edition, both of those elements were included in the story also. So, in retrospect, they really just should have been there from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think are some of those also available on your website to read as well?
That's right. All of the material that was in the various special editions, and we've had special editions for all 4 of the main books. And but I've released all that material on my website, paolini.net, because it's been long enough since those editions were published that they're out of print, or you can only find them on Etsy. Yeah, I don't think they're in print anymore. So I want people to have access to that material, which is why it's on the website, and I highly recommend folks check that out, especially the letter from Jode that appeared at the end of the special edition of Inheritance, which provides some few useful clues and bits of context leading into the Fork, the Witch, and the Worm, as well as some other things. And it even has a little hint and tie into To Sleep in a Sea of Stars.
That's amazing. Wow. Okay. Very good.
Oh, you didn't know that, huh?
No, that's great. Huh.
Yeah, everything ties together.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I was gonna say earlier about the forging of the sword. Like, I think, I mean, I don't know how much of it was conscious or not, but I think the fact that you obviously use these real life references from Japan and other places. It really, I think it's partly what makes me really like this scene and what makes it so iconic. I like that you spent time on this moment because it felt real, or at least as real as it can be with magic involved.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't know, there was something kind of ceremonial about this scene, and I think part of it is because it was, there was attention brought to the technique and the descriptions of how it was made. It felt like a process. It felt like an actual moment, and it would have been a shame, definitely, if it was kind of done in just like a page or two.
I'm glad you
I
feel that way. I
felt
mean,
like-
it's just a demonstration of the benefits of research, and there are definitely other things in the series where if I had the same level of personal experience with the subject material, or I had done the same level of research, it probably would have heightened those scenes as well. You know, I do my best, but there are definitely some things I know more about than others. You know, so
yeah. No, but
and
it really
that's just the way it
it's really
goes.
nice. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, I mean, on the sci-fi side of things, I tried to research pretty much everything I could. If there's anything I sort of fell down on, it was maybe some of the cultural stuff of my future. But that's something I can explore a lot more in the future with other stories. So
Yeah. It is one hell of a task. I'll give you that.
it is. I mean, that's why you do multiple drafts, because I don't know about other writers,
Yeah.
but my brain can only handle so many layers of processing and meaning and you know, thought at one time. So you do one draft focusing on some of the core stuff, and then the next draft you can focus on some of the other stuff.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that Aragon Remake is trending in entertainment industry with 1,660 tweets.
All
We
right.
take those.
I do have another
you
question.
want
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Take a screenshot and send it to me, because
I have,
so
yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah, I've sent that.
I have to let a cat out. I will be right back.
Ooh, is it Solemn Bum?
No, it is Kiara the cat. I'll be right back.
I'm sure Solemn Bum would let himself out.
Pretty
Sure.
much, yeah. He wouldn't need us humans to authorize him to.
Nah.
Puny humans.
Just transform, open the door, transform back, walk out as a cat, transform back, close the door.
Exactly. The sass. Yeah, there's a couple of questions here that I can see on the chat on your stream. We can probably ask as well. Yeah, three questions right now. That's cool. Keep them coming. Oh God, I'm missing so many tweets.
Yeah, same. I have Twitter on one screen and my physical chemistry stuff on the other, and I'm always ignoring one of them.
I'm impressed that you are taking the challenge of having both.
Yeah, it's not working.
Alright, I am back.
Neat thought, but well, reality strikes again.
Yeah. Welcome back.
Reality strikes again.
Yeah, I have Twitter on one screen and my physical chemistry stuff on the other, since I'm going into an exam next week. But
yeah, I don't think you can do both at once.
Yeah, it's not working. Well, I tried.
This is your fault, 99. I'm realizing I don't know your name, so.
It is Jack.
Jack.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Jack.
After all this time.
It's about time. But yeah, it's your fault if Malta struggles to study.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I guess you just have to get a job as a composer at Disney, maybe, working on the Aragon remake.
You have no choice now.
Yeah. Well, I still would like to close university.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, would be great
Well,
if
I can tell-
those 4
I
years wouldn't go to the drain.
Yeah, but I can tell you from personal experience, if you manage to make a living doing what you love, you don't need the degree. And it's nice to have it, of course, but someone
Yeah,
starts
yeah, of
paying
course.
you someone starts paying you a living wage to do the stuff you want to do. I mean, what,
Of course, of
what else
course.
do you need?
Of course. Like, that's the reason behind my decision of not studying music. Like, I always had this idea of, well, just let me study whatever, composing, music, piano, songwriting, arrangement, whatever. But I always thought, well, if you're good at it and you'll get the chance, it doesn't really matter if you have a degree or not. And there's always this dangerous level of turning something you love, a hobby you like, into this daring prospect of work that you have to do it. And I would rather keep it as an hobby, and if it works, it works. And if not, then I can do the other thing I love, teaching children, and make my living with this.
Well, if it is something that works out, it will become your job ultimately.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
transitioning from something that's as you say, a hobby that you love, and then making it your job. I don't. It's like I'm trying to read tweets at the same same time.
Multitasking.
You know, it's hard. I won't lie.
Yeah,
It's hard to
I
take
imagine.
a hobby that you love and that gives you joy when you do it in your free time, and that rejuvenates you when you do it in your free time. And it's hard to make that then a job. I mean,
Yeah,
an
I
example
imagine.
maybe lots of people could relate to would be video games. You know, if you enjoy playing games in your free time after your work or school, and that's how you recover and rejuvenate and all of that, to then go and become a professional, you know, YouTuber, Twitch streamer, whatever, where now you have to play 8 to 12 hours a day, you have to edit videos, you have to plan stuff, you have to treat it like a job. That can be really, really hard, and it may not be fun at all. It's the same thing with writing or any creative thing when you go from hobby to job. For me, personally, the way I make it work is focusing on what it is I love about the process ultimately, because there's a lot that I'm not a huge fan of, and that's true for every creative person. You know, there's a lot of things that are not what you love about it that you still have to do. But just remembering why I fell in love with books and storytelling and fantasy and science fiction in the first place, and that makes a big, big difference. But it is hard at times.
Yeah. I mean, I had tremendous luck in the last 2 years. I'm doing it more and more over the years. The whole COVID pandemic stuff has accelerated my creative output, especially in the first few months. And this whole mindset of just making stuff, just finishing stuff, not only sketch something and it's not gonna work, whatever. But really finishing something, call it a day, and well, you will always find something you would like to change after it's out. That's just natural. It's always, at least for
Tell
me.
me about it.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Therefore, well, let's just put it out at whatever, 97%, and we will never reach this last 3% ever, since they always change. And this was one of the transitions I did in the last 2 years that really helped me with coming up with new ideas, with putting out work, and really growing with the feedback I got. Since you won't get any feedback if there's nothing to give feedback on.
Exactly. You can't fix what doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And worrying about perfection leads to paralysis, and then you can't create, and you learn more by continuing to write and create. I mean, the downside of that approach is you do see authors and other creators who pump out enormous amounts of work and they never improve. So that's
Yeah.
not good.
Yeah.
But at the
I've
same
seen
time,
that,
you see other people who, are such perfectionists that they never really produce much of anything, and that's not good either. So trying to strike a balance, and you have to also accept your own limitations as a person, whether it's genetic or background or just the circumstances of your life or whatever. At a certain point, you are going to tap out in terms of what you can accomplish. Your skill level will sort of reach a cap. But I think that skill level is a lot higher than most people realize. And as long as you're willing to keep embracing discomfort, you can keep learning and growing. Because, learning is, I won't say it's inherently uncomfortable, but, you're forcing your brain to re-examine things and to grow. And that's not always an easy process.
Yeah, also it's just frightening to accept that you will never know everything. It doesn't matter if you have in a creative sector, like if you go into music, into painting, into whatever, or if you go to the more in quotation marks academic stuff like nature sciences or whatever. It's just not possible to grasp even the slightest chunk of a certain, science. Like I'm studying chemistry, and I will never reach this level of you know what you're doing, and it's not gonna happen. There's so much stuff you literally can't keep up.
Well, it's you know what it is. What you're talking about is a basic state of the human condition, because our understanding of the universe is woefully incomplete on like a deep fundamental level. And on top of that, the universe itself is so complicated. There's so many processes going on every instant in every speck of matter and space that trying to predict it all is literally impossible. You really actually can't predict everything that's happening. There's a certain amount of randomness that seems to be going on. So it's you have to accept the limits of our knowledge.
Yeah.
I guess what's nice about creative stuff is that, you could see the other side of that coin and say, hey, at least there's always something to learn, and it's not one of these things where you learn something once and that's it, you're done for life.
Whoa!
Yeah, absolutely.
I just saw the hashtag. It is trending for me also.
Oh, how many tweets?
Hey, nice.
Almost to 2,000.
Very nice.
Right.
Yeah, it's also regarding that what you said, Maxime. Like you have this vast catalog of possibilities, and you have the chance to really build your own style with all the tools laying out in front of you, and you can choose and try and experiment. Like you said to me with your newest work, like you tried to merge different styles of painting, of CGI elements, of whatever, and you just have the chance to combine, test, experiment, and really find your thing.
And to fail. You have to fail quickly so you can improve quickly. Does that if that makes sense?
And you fail often, most of the time.
Just as a quick aside, we've started breaking the bubble, and there's people who weren't involved now finding the hashtag. Someone said, "What's this about an Aragon remake?" I would go for that. So it's getting out there.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I'm not following the hashtag by itself. I'm just following the people who are including me in tweets.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's just too much.
It's too much.
Oh, I should go.
So if you do have questions for the stream, just tweet at Paolini and at MCAlagaesia, and we will answer. Speaking of questions, there's a question from Paulina. What's the possibility of getting a book dedicated to the ancient language? Maybe a sort of rule book. I'd love to learn it properly.
Oh, wow.
Probably fairly low, if I'm being honest, because it's not something I can really sell as a separate book. That said, if you go to paolini.net, I have a bunch of resources for the ancient language there, including an actual paper written by, I think it was doctorate students in the Netherlands, PhD students who are studying linguistics, and they wrote an entire paper on the ancient language, and they took what I did and then they built it out even more in terms of like how, based off what I created, how this might, you know, develop as a fuller language. So yeah, the paper's called An Introduction to the Ancient Language, and it's really a rather spectacular piece of work. Let me see how many pages this thing is.
I was going to mention that paper when the question...
It's almost, I mean, it's 43 pages long.
Wow.
Of linguistics. So I highly recommend checking that out. We have that posted, and in fact, Paolini.net has an enormous amount of content. It's so much so that I think it's oftentimes difficult to find stuff on there because there's so much. We're actually looking at maybe streamlining it a bit, making it a little easier to find. But yeah, if you dig around, there's a ton of cool stuff there.
So when you're writing future books, would you use that paper as a reference for making up more grammar and words in the ancient language, or would you go off on your own direction?
The rules and stuff that they created or they extrapolated all make linguistic sense. So for me to go in a completely different direction wouldn't even make sense for the ancient language. Some of the things they did were sort of creating some alternate declensions and other stuff for, basically they built out the vocabulary a little bit more. I probably wouldn't use what they created because it's you know, for copyright reasons, but it was useful material that gave me some fun stuff to think about as I'm continuing to develop the language.
That's great. I need to hop on the website more often. Hey, there's everything
we're trying
they
to
need there to create a series.
Yeah, and we're trying to have a lot more regular updates there. In fact, we're building a section that's going to have fan art for the Inheritance Cycle on Paolini.net, and we have also a section for fan art on Fractalverse.net for stuff in the Fractalverse, and we're doing the same thing on Paolini.net.
With your file on your PC full of fan art.
But you know, the funny thing is, I have not actually sort of dived into that very much. It's really just stuff that people have been posting currently. So I'll go into the old stuff if I need to, but there's so much current stuff that, you know, that's what I'm featuring.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole new wave of stuff coming in with the Fan Art Fridays and the tweet storms. People are being creative and sharing their work. It's really good to see. So it'd be great to have a place for all of that.
I cannot believe we're over 2,000 tweets on the hashtag, and we are still trending. You know, and I have really kept an eye on trending tweets since the last tweet storm, and so many of them didn't even come close to the number of tweets that we had the last tweet storm. I mean, you see stuff trending all the time, and it's like, you know, got 1,200 tweets or something, and I'm like, you know, those are baby numbers. It's like the only things that really get really a lot higher tweets compared with what we had are, you know, major sporting events, a couple of like large political things.
Yeah.
But it really is like global stuff that gets a lot bigger. A lot bigger numbers. So we did extraordinarily well, and now we're trending again. It's crazy.
I just love it. It's just so fun.
Yeah, and the memes. The meme game is on point.
That's definitely like 51% of the reason why I started another tweet storm, to get more memes.
I like this one. Someone does the Bernie meme, Bernie Sanders. It says, you know, once again, I'm asking for an Aragon remake.
It's just, the meme just lends itself perfectly to what we're doing.
Time for another question.
Yeah, shoot.
Have you ever been upset about Angela's prophecy because you wanted to do some things differently as you got
Nope.
towards the end of book
Nope.
4?
Nope.
That's a resounding no.
I know how to always make. Look, I know how to make what I want to happen in the story happen, no matter what I've said previously. I always know how to. There's always a loophole. There's always ways to make things happen. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And B, I told the story that I wanted to tell.
Yeah. That's
So-
good. That's good to know.
So there we go. I think
Hell yeah.
the only things that sort of caused me issues were some of my preconceptions about the end. That was basically the last book. I didn't do the work that I needed to do in order to have the ending that I originally planned, and also the characters changed and grew and broadened, and my understanding of them broadened. So by the time I got into that final book, I had to reevaluate and say, hey, what I was originally thinking or planning doesn't make sense, so now I have to think about that some more. As an example, when I was originally plotting out the series, I was thinking that Roran was going to end up becoming king. And I
Ooh.
now have a better understanding of how I could make that happen if I really had tried, but it didn't work for where he was and who he was and what he wanted. He didn't want to become king, which of course would mean that it would be fun to make him king and then force him to deal with that situation. But for everyone else to accept him as king, he would have had to establish himself a lot more than he did, and there would have had to have been a lot more time for that to happen.
But you just can't do it because they would never understand. See how you are, you just have to say that you're.
When you're not really fine.
Sorry. TikTok's playing here. People are tweeting
that
me
meme.
TikToks.
Yeah. No, it's a great one.
I think my favorite
Yeah, I
one
mean,
so
hey.
far today has been someone asked me if Nasawada would be a Disney princess in a remake, and I was like, no, she's a queen. Literally.
My queen.
I have another question here. How come there weren't any female Eldenari? As far as I remember, only Glayla, Umuroth, Valda, Evanos. Were there any others?
There are a lot of Eldenari, and there were female ones. Some of those, I'd have to look in my files. I'd have to check. I think some of those actually might be female, and it's just not clear because of the names. As I went on later on, I was trying to play with the names and not come up with ones that were stereotypically female or male so much. Umuroth is definitely male. Valder's male. Evanos, I don't remember. But yes, there are as many female Eldenari as male.
To be honest, I never even thought about it. I sort of read the names but didn't think, if they were male or female, or just
Well, and
saw them
I
as
had-
cool dragons.
Well, and I had some. I made some. I don't want to say thoughtless, but
Yeah.
unexamined assumptions when I was starting to write the series, which, as a teenager, there are definitely some things I hadn't put as much thought into as I have now. So, as an example, in the original hardcover version of Aragon, when Aragon goes to see King Hrothgar, and he's walking through the hall there up to the throne, and it mentions there are all the statues of the dwarven kings on either side. And in reprints later on, I changed that to say, the dwarven kings and queens. And it was just this, I don't know, unconscious assumption that I made at 15 or 16 that once I had a little bit of time, and it actually wasn't even that much time, I thought back of it was like, that doesn't make any sense. Why did I even write that? I want to change that. So, there are definitely things like that I got a better handle on as I went along.
Hmm. Well, that's why a series would be a nice opportunity for you to revisit some things. Just saying.
Quite possibly. Quite possibly.
Oh, there's a lot of questions.
Oh, where are they? Or if you want, you can
I'm
read them.
still in the chat. Yeah. So you read the one about. Oh yeah, there you go. Did Random House hear of the tweet storm, and what did they say? Pretty simple question.
Yes, we pulled together a whole report, and Jack, we took the page that you put up about the tweet storm, and we shared that with the publicists and my editor and everyone else at Random House, and it really made everyone sit up and pay attention again. And this is really good because I don't want to go into details, but we're in the stage of considering a whole bunch of next steps for the world of Aragon and this franchise, and what I'll be writing and what we can do alongside books and all of that. So the tweet storm was just like this huge shot of enthusiasm and proof to them of the strength of the fan base.
I agree.
That's amazing. That's really great to hear. Sorry, I'm also on Twitter at the same time.
Another question we had, this might be a no comment sort of question. Does Galbatorix have children? Or does he even want children? Or have any sexual desires at all?
I'm pretty sure I mentioned he has concubines or something at some point. So he's still human. As for any children, no comment.
Oh.
But I will say he was not exactly family-oriented, as a rule.
No, yeah. I wouldn't expect him to be, given that we don't even see any children, but there's always the possibility.
Oh, and fertility for dragon riders, actually, even if they were human originally, I say originally, even if they were human dragon riders, as with the elves, their fertility dropped quite substantially after they're bonded with the dragons. So children became much more of a rare thing for any rider once they were bonded with the dragon. Didn't mean they were infertile. They could still have children. It just was a lot more difficult for them to conceive.
That's interesting.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's a function of longevity. The longer lived a race is, the fewer children they tend to have over a given time period.
Mm-hmm. I always like to kind of dive into these kind of specifics, not necessarily about their sexuality, but just generally things that, I don't know, just enriching the world and add layers to it. And this is one of, this could be an example of these things. It's always interesting, even if it doesn't ultimately come up in like regularly in the books. It's still nice to have a hint of these things.
Well, it's kind of like an iceberg. You have all of the things that we know, and then there's all the stuff that I've thought about and invented behind the scenes, which is like the rest of the iceberg. So there's the stuff that's directly relevant to the stories and that's mentioned in the books, and then there's all this other stuff which gives me a nice gives me a nice pool of stuff to draw from and to write with some authority about the world and the characters.
Mm-hmm.
A similar question. How did the immortality affect the relationships of human riders and their families? So their existing mothers, fathers, siblings.
I mean, it made it incredibly difficult, which is why
I can imagine.
I mean, aside from any racial differences. I say racial, but it really is species differences. These are not races as we tend to think about it with humans. It's species differences. That's why, aside from species differences, the elves don't tend to have relationships with humans, or even dwarves for that matter. So it was very, very difficult, and the dragon riders tended mostly to have relationships with each other. They live together, they work together, things naturally happen. It was not unknown, that said, it was not unknown for a rider to have, a partner who wasn't a dragon rider. But yeah, it was very, very difficult for the human dragon riders because they were going to outlive anyone they were with, and I think again that's why they mostly stuck with themselves.
Yeah.
I've just noticed
Makes
that
sense.
the Twitter bots, the advertising bots, they started to pick up the Aragon remake hashtag like they did last time.
Oh, really?
So it's working.
Yeah, I just saw that as well. It's like, oh, here we go again.
Well, that's good
Well,
though, because that actually
tweets are tweets.
that ups the
It increases the count,
visibility,
inflates it. Yeah. The next question.
So
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It might be the same question you're about to ask. So after you.
Oh, okay. I know you're a part-time metal worker. Tell me your favorite blade brand and your favorite steel to work with.
Great question. When it comes to my favorite brand of blades, okay, I'm going to be an insufferable snob here for a second, and I realize that, so fair warning. But my favorite knives are all custom, so they don't have a brand. It's a maker that I've enjoyed and gotten, and so there's no brand there. If I have to buy a mass market produced knife, my everyday carry knife is a Benchmade, which I'm rather fond of. It has carbon fiber scales on the handle. It's a folding blade. But no, all of my other knives are customs. I actually found at one point this was the only custom knife store in New York City. They've since closed because the rent was too high, and they might still be functioning as like appointment only or an online only store. But I went there a few times, found the store, and spent way too much money and bought my editor a knife and got myself quite a few goodies. As far as my favorite steel to work with, I am not a snob when it comes to steel. My favorite steel is junk steel. There are a bunch of old abandoned pieces of farm equipment around here, and I've used a bunch of leaf springs from those pieces of equipment. I made my sister a knife, and it's from this leaf spring, and the leaf spring's probably close to 100 years old.
Wow.
These are pieces of farm equipment from the original homesteaders here in the valley where I live. So I've scavenged and salvaged that stuff and then repurposed the metal. So I've never actually bought any metal for knife making because I have this perfectly good high carbon steel that I can use. Now, if I were getting serious about knife making, I would buy, some sort of proper bar stock so that I had control of the quality as much as possible. But given that it's just a hobby for me, I enjoy repurposing the older metal, and especially because you can do things like the metal acquires this beautiful pitted finish, patina, and you can leave that on parts of the knives, and that's just a character that's really nice to have and is difficult to get with a new piece of metal.
Someone replied to that tweet and said, "Are you sure your favorite steel isn't bright steel?"
Well, of course, that would be the best answer.
But yeah, I liked your answer. Repurposing things like that is awesome.
I picked up a custom knife one time. Didn't buy it, but it had a lot of cobalt in the alloy, which makes it incredibly wear resistant. It was a very hard wearing steel. But the problem with something like that is those sorts of knives are almost impossible to sharpen. Like you have to have diamond sharpening bars and rods and all of that. Which I mean, it's great because once you get an edge on the metal, you can use it for a long, long time. But I'm a big fan of having a sharp knife, so if I can't sharpen a knife properly, I will not use it. Oh dear, someone's tweeting, yeah, if I remember correctly, the movie is older than me, or at least came out around the time I was born. Yeah, we're all getting old.
Okay.
2006.
We're all getting old.
That's weird. I mean, I guess that makes sense, yeah. Wow.
I mean, it was what, 2006, so...
My back just started hurting. Okay, it's apparently trending in the US again.
Nice. I'm not seeing it at the moment, but
Ooh,
can you see how many...
I'll send that in Twitter while I ask the next question, which is, do you have any thoughts about doing a book series or like an anthology series on Brom growing up? Or maybe his hunt for the Forsworn?
Yeah, it's definitely... I've had that thought since early in writing Inheritance Cycle, that I could write a book about the life of Brom. And it wouldn't be a short story, really. I mean, I could do some short stories, but if I were to really go into it, it would just be a book about Brom's life, you know, and it would basically cover him from maybe not birth to death, but certainly from when he was accepted into the Dragon Riders to when he kills Morzan and the death of Morzan, and sort of then leaving off there as that would lead into the Inheritance Cycle. The problem with it is, and the problem with anything written in the world of Aragon, and this is something I've struggled with, is how to write it in a way that new readers could still pick it up and enjoy it. Because you see this all the time with long-running series where, well, I mean, like the Sword of Shannara. And this is not a ding against the Sword of Shannara. I think this is just a natural outcome of how long it's been around. There are so many books in that series, and even though it's had new stories started in that world, it's very hard for someone to just pick up book, 15 out of 27 or however many there are and say, yes, I'm going to start here, right? So that's always been my thought when it comes to writing stuff in the world of Aragon, is how do I do it in a way that's still accessible to new readers? I mean, like The Fork, the Witch, and the Worm is not really something someone's going to pick up if they haven't read Aragon. Now, maybe with Brom. Of course, one of the downsides with that is that people know how the story ends. So making it interesting enough that it would appeal would be a challenge.
It's a challenge I think you're up to. But I can... Yeah. I see what you mean.
I mean, the great thing is that there's a perfect. It gives me a perfect title. I can just call the book Brom, and that sells itself, right? And sales are not the only reason to write something, but you do want, if I spend a year or so or longer working on a book, it's nice for it to know it's going to have a good audience.
Yeah. It's nice to know your stories are going to be heard.
Exactly. I write so that these stories can be read. I'm not writing for myself ultimately, because these stories are in my head already. It's there's if it was just for myself, I wouldn't go to all this effort.
Yeah, you could just daydream about them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But daydreaming is where all this comes from.
It needs to start somewhere.
Someone said that they have 50 Aragon memes saved, and they're just going to tweet all of them.
That's dedication right there.
No,
Amazing.
52 memes, they said. 52 memes.
It began.
The meme avalanche.
The next question, how would you feel about having scenes in the Aragon remake where the actors speak in the ancient language or Dwarvish, like in The Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones, where you have those scenes where it's more about the actors portraying the emotions rather than being able to hear the dialogue. What do you think about that?
Well, if we had scenes with, let's say, the elves speaking in the ancient language, we'd probably subtitle it. I doubt we would have any scenes like that without subtitles.
Without subtitles.
Unless the point of the scene is that Aragon or whoever we're following can't understand what's being said. So, which is true when Aragon first starts hearing the ancient language. So that might be an approach where we say, okay, Aragon first hears this, we don't subtitle it because he doesn't understand it. It depends how tightly we would be on Aragon's point of view in those scenes. The old movie 13th Warrior does a wonderful job of showing the main character learning, I think it's Old Norse, because it's a retelling of Beowulf. And it goes from the other actors speaking in that Norse or that version of Old Norse, and then it gradually transitions into English as the main character learns the language, and it's really just a wonderful way to handle that in a film or television. So we probably wouldn't do that with the ancient language because we want it to continue to sound different and foreign and magical. But there are ways to show Aragon's understanding. Again, even with scenes where it would make sense to have dialogue in the ancient language, you don't want to overdo it and make people read. Scenes where people have to read, unless someone goes into a film knowing the whole thing's subtitled, you always run the risk of losing your audience a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, a classic thing that happens in these scenarios in other movies and series and whatever is they start the conversation in this case in the ancient language. So they, to make the spectator understand, oh, okay, this is where it's going, and then they transition to English, but we implicitly understand that they're not speaking in English. It doesn't always work, but that's one way that I've seen people do it. So
and that's certainly an approach. But again, like with Lord of the Rings, when they use Elvish, they use Elvish. They don't. Or Quenya, to use the proper term. I think it was Quenya for the most part. Or Sindarin, I can't remember. So we probably would just keep the language when it needs to be used.
Mm-hmm.
So more like when you need to do magic and blessings.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of how it's used in the book. I mean, you notice there aren't any long conversations in the ancient language or any other language. I mean, it's used as a spice here and there to give a feel for the world and a sense of the place.
I like it.
Except when there's an angry dwarf yelling at Saphira.
Well, in that case, you don't really need to know what they say. The anger is implied in their
body language.
Exactly, and their tone.
Maybe you don't want to know what they're saying.
Maybe not.
Probably for the better.
Yeah, we might have to up the rating.
The age rating.
Yeah.
All right, I have to go. I need to grab some food and be a little bit productive today.
Yes.
Of course. As always, Malta, thank you for the awesome music and your participation in this stream and the fandom in general. And you've contributed so much.
Always.
It's really been awesome.
Indeed. Thank you for joining us.
I hope I can put out some more stuff when my exams are over. I have some things planned, some things almost finished, and we'll see. Hopefully soon.
You're almost as cryptic as Christopher there.
My energy.
What, Maxime?
Once again, sending you all my energy and motivation for your exams.
That's certainly gonna help.
Yeah, good luck with those.
Good luck, man. Good luck.
I'll keep a close eye on the stream, of course, and I hope the hashtag will rise once again.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Have a good one.
See you later.
Yeah, man. Have a nice evening.
Next question.
Yes.
So the question was, would you like to take any of the storylines further, add extra characters, and build the visual world with Disney? Often more is needed when you translate a book to a adaptation on screen.
It would. I've actually spent a lot of time talking about that with my sister. It depends on the approach that's taken for the adaptation. Like, if it's a TV show, then you actually do need to bring in more material. And it might even, and again, this is speculation at this point, but, for example, you might start following Roran's story back at Carvajal a lot sooner, like in the first season, during the events of the first book, rather than waiting until season 2 and book 2 to bring him in. There are a lot of things like that. Like as with, like with Roran, the characters of Carvajal, the villagers, would have to be, treated as proper characters and have some small storylines as you need to have with side characters. There's enough material with Aragon's story and Roran's story that you can certainly fill out episodes without any problems. But I think we'd also see more with Murtagh, quite a bit with Murtagh. As I mentioned in some tweets a while back, Angela and I did a screenplay for Eldest, which actually sold. And one of the things we did was actually show, and this was Angela's idea, it was a great idea, was show a lot more of Murtagh's point of view after he's captured by Galbatorix. And his experience with Thorn and Galbatorix and all of that, and how that leads him to become the person he is when Aragon reunites with him on the Battle of the Burning Plains. So there's a lot that could be done treating Aragon, Roran, and Murtagh sort of essentially as 3 facets of the story. The focus stays on Aragon, of course. He's the main story, but it's almost like we have 3 brothers, even though they're not all brothers. It's like we have 3 brothers who are each dealing with the question of how to grow up and how to deal with power and responsibility and life and death and the meaning of the universe in separate ways. And it all complements and reflects on Aragon's own decisions and journey. Because Aragon is the youngest of the 3 and is the one who is the most immature. Roran is essentially grown up. He has a partner. He has a place in the world, and he knows his path. And then all of that gets disrupted, of course, but he already knows who he is. He doesn't really change over the... And it's strange to say, because he goes through this huge journey, and he does change. But the core of who he is doesn't change. Aragon is much more in flux, because he's yet to be fully formed, if that makes sense. And Murtagh's in between. He is more mature than Aragon, but not as settled as Roran is in his personality. And of course, he's put under enormous stress. And there's an argument. Yeah. This is a real world thing where you can argue that who we are and how we behave changes based off of our circumstances. So if you want to change your personality or your behavior, change your circumstances. An extreme example of this would be if you were to go into war. You end up in the military and you end up in a war, your behavior will be completely different, and your reactions may be completely different than they would be otherwise. So Murtagh, the point of that is that Murtagh is put under enormous stress, and his circumstances change enormously. To go from, albeit an incredibly stressful childhood and upbringing, but one that was very luxurious by all standards, to essentially, hitchhiking and hoofing it through the wilderness, to being treated as a traitor or at least a threat by the Varden, and then captured by Galbatorix, and then bonded with Thorn, and then et cetera, et cetera. I mean, in some ways, his journey is the most transformative of all of them.
I really like the idea.
I think he needs therapy.
Oh yeah, no, he could definitely use therapy. He's not going to.
I think a lot of characters,
at least not in the traditional.
Yeah,
way.
I think they're all a bit damaged.
Everyone needs therapy.
Well, and that's actually where his character is heading at the moment, in the sense that
he had to leave. take some time
and
out.
Thorn, they need to heal.
Mm.
They need to heal, and I do want to write more about Murtagh. Not going to say anything more about that in the moment, but what he's going to go through and where he's headed as a character is going to lead to hopefully that growth and that healing. But he needs to go through it.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the idea of that eldest, like the 3 perspectives in the eldest screenplay. Although you do lose the reveal of Murtagh at the end of Eldest, you get that comparison and contrast between those 3 characters as they develop. And I'd really like to see that.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a trade-off. You lose a little bit of that reveal, but actually, you do lose it. But at the same time, it handled properly. You know, you don't follow Murtagh right up when he and reunite. You have a gap there, so you know up in and what shape Thorn's going to show up in, and how fast Thorn grows can all be a bit of a surprise. And hopefully, if done well, you would actually get more tension because you know this confrontation is fast approaching.
Yeah,
and Aragon's not aware of it.
That would work really well as a TV series because you're waiting as those episodes come out. You can see it slowly approaching.
I can see that. It's hyping me up just hearing about this.
Well, you know, television shows are more character-based than film simply because they have more time to deal with the characters. You know, film in a lot of ways, and this might sound strange to film might sound strange to say this because of the size of the stories that you get in film, like Lord of the Rings or Lawrence of Arabia or something like that. But film in many ways is much more like a short story than a television show is. And now it depends on the type of the television show. You do have very episodic television where there aren't overarching storylines and things are very self-contained, but that's not done as much these days. So if you're doing long-form television like Game of Thrones or something like that, where it is this larger story that's being told over multiple episodes, then you have a lot more time with the characters than you do in a film. You just get to know them better. And that is a challenge, of course. You have to know the characters well enough that you can write them. You have to have their storylines planned out well enough that it makes sense. But if you can pull it off, you get an experience that you don't get in film. And I say that as someone who really still would love to see a film adaptation of Aragon. But the world is so big, there are so many characters, there's so much that happens that, you know, to do it properly, you need space. And, you know, that's something that even Harry Potter ran into. Those later books, even when they put them into 2 in the films, it suffered. I remember watching a couple of the later films and feeling like there were some really, really important bits that they just didn't address, and that as a result, the characters really suffered.
I felt the same. There were some omissions in the character. They focused more on the action, which in the limited time you have, I suppose that's what's going to appeal to the masses. But it would be nice to see. And that's what I think a TV show would do really well with the inheritance cycle, is all that character development.
Yeah, and
then, that
then,
idea about the 3 perspectives. That sounds really cool to me.
Yeah, now the challenge, of course, contrasting with that, is having the budget to really do justice to the world. You know, the dragons, the magic, the locations. And then having... how do I put this? Basically, you know, getting the sweep of the story to work over multiple episodes, because when you do it in the shape of a movie, it's all one unit. The audience consumes it in one sitting, which you can do with a television show, but it is rarer. And the fact that you have episode breaks up the story, essentially. It changes the pacing. You know, if you watch Lawrence of Arabia, if you watch Lord of the Rings, it's this grand sweep from start to finish. And of course, there are breaks in the story. There are pauses, but it's not to such a degree that, hey, we got credits now, and now we have to start up the next episode, or, you know, whatever. It just keeps you immersed in that world and in that story. And that's part of the reason why I was initially reluctant to even consider a television adaptation because I like that experience. As a viewer, I like that experience of being swept away on a story from start to finish. But, you know, I've also had experiences with television shows that are able to accomplish a lot of that. And, you know, the reboot of Battlestar Galactica is one of those experiences for me where, you know, the miniseries kicked it off, and then the first season especially just pulls you through almost compulsively with the story. So, yeah, you know, it would be a challenge, but if done well, I think would be pretty awesome. You know, what we don't want is another adaptation that failed to sort of, you know, to capture the spirit of the world and the story and the characters, because honestly, two failed adaptations would kill the property in terms of franchise potential and further development. It's not like with Dune, where even though the first film isn't what a lot of fans wanted and actually kind of bombed, the first film is pretty epic. You know, if you look at it as just as a science fiction film, not as an adaptation, it's pretty awesome, actually. So, you know, you have to have enough value in whatever's created. It has to be good enough that, you know, people are willing to continue to engage with the material and care about it.
Yeah. It is also one of my my fears, but at the same time, you know, we if you don't
At the same time, you have to
try
try.
it, exactly.
And I see we are trending. I see us trending also. We're almost to 3,000 tweets.
Awesome, that's great. I'm looking at the memes right now. It's a delight. Speaking of the different point of views we'd have in a series, an obvious one is also Nasuada, obviously, that you would have on top of the sort of trinity that you were mentioning earlier. I think, like, just in terms of adding to the political aspect of the series, it would be amazing. The kind of more almost subtle part of Alagaesia, that the sort of behind the scenes aspect of things, which I think we get with Nasuada, is also something that's really interesting. This sort of tension, and the this sense of responsibility and that she has, and the growing almost overwhelming feelings that she gets, but that she manages to sort of battle.
Well,
You know?
she's like the other main characters, is assuming the roles and responsibilities of the previous generation, just like Auric, like Aragon, Murtagh, Roran. And she might actually be a POV character in a, you know, some sort of television show. You know, bring her in later, of course, but yeah, she might be a POV character. Same possibly with Auric, because they both end up in positions of power and shape a lot of the events that happen.
Yeah.
You know, and there's some opportunities to show stuff I didn't show in the books. Like the one thing I've always wanted to, I would have added in retrospect, would be showing a little bit of the journey of the Varden from Trondheim to Serta.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much stuff to
Yeah,
to
and it
explore.
would provide some more space to show, you know, Nasawada consolidating her power and dealing with the challenges of, you know, the other factions within the Varden, as well as, you know, the dwarves and Serta and all of that.
I've already made a couple of Game of Thrones references today, but I just watched the series for the first time, and that what you're talking about, Nazawada, makes me think of the progression of Daenerys Targaryen, how she has her rise to power. So, like, while you're watching the other characters, you'd also watch Nazawada going through the cities, taking power, and then eventually she becomes the Queen of Alagaesia.
Yes, just a little less rape and murder.
Yes,
along
a
the way.
little less.
Yes, yes.
More
I
measured.
also like the this was actually a really nice touch that I liked in Nasuada's story is her past kind of catching up with her and you know her origins kind of showing up and they were described as they you know they looked so different from everyone else in Alagaesia,
Mhm.
which is always nice and refreshing. So
And
that's also cool.
I loved
Well,
Rowan's
and
reaction when he
Mm.
asks, "Is her skin dyed?" And Aragorn says, "No, that's just how she is."
you know, one of the things we were talking about, like the iceberg of material that doesn't get shared all the time when writing stuff. And one of the things I was not able to share that I was rather pleased with was sort of the backstory of how Ajahad and Nasawada came to the Varden, because originally they were, I don't know if it was in Urubane or somewhere, they were actually, Ajahad was a servant in the Empire. I don't know. Yeah,
Ooh.
pretty high up actually, and Nasawada's mother died during the escape when she was very young, and there's I had a lot of cool stuff all worked out, and it's still canon as far as I'm concerned. I didn't write anything that contradicted it. I just never found a proper place for Nasawada to sort of divulge that backstory, but
Yeah.
maybe in the future.
Hmm.
The next question I've got here is, I hate to be that guy, and I'm sure you get this message several times a day, but have you started writing or brainstorming book 5?
Book 5 has been worked out in great detail. There's still a bit more work to do in a few places, but it's in really good shape actually. I actually sat down and told my editor the whole story at one point, and she really liked it.
Well, she's
So,
very lucky.
well, and I've done that with a whole bunch of
Oh.
future stories with her. So as far as writing and stuff, I'm currently doing some edits on some of the adaptation of To Sleep in a Sea of Stars, and that's in development at the moment. And I'm also I turned in a draft for the prequel novel for To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. It's a short prequel novel, and got some great feedback from my agent. He says it works. He really likes it. But there are two things I need to address in some quick rewrites, which probably won't take very long, a couple of days. And then I want to write something with dragons again. So make of that what you will. I gotta let the cat back in, so I'll be back in a minute.
Yep. Oh, good. I actually, yeah, I need to get back into sleep. I've had no time recently. Get back into that.
I've had no time at all to even start it, so I'm looking forward to.
Mm. You're in for a treat.
I've heard good things.
It's quite different. But yeah, it's still very intriguing, and I like how it kicks off without saying anything. The first few chapters are interesting.
I can tell that you're trying to hold back.
Yeah, I would hate to spoil you, so I'm not going to say anything.
I've been pretty lucky so far with spoilers. It's maybe I've just been blocking it out.
Just unconsciously, yeah. Would you add other storylines, characters? Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this question in the chat by 5sicko. Hopefully, we've answered that question. I think
All right,
we also kind of welcome back. I think we mentioned this last event as well, which is that yes, a series would give the opportunity to give us the opportunity to explore things a bit differently. because obviously a screenplay is different from a book, and so things like side like storylines and side characters and stuff like that would definitely be explored differently from what I understand. Sorry,
Yeah, well,
Christopher, I was just answering one of the questions in the chat based on what
Ah.
we said already earlier.
yeah. Well, the biggest difference is that books can get inside the heads of your characters, whereas film can't, and yet you still need to strive for depth in your characters, and you have to find visual ways to show what the characters are feeling, thinking, experiencing, hoping for. Badly written film or television dialogue tends to be very flat, very surface level. Well-written dialogue contains multiple levels of meaning. You know what the character is saying, but you also know what they're not saying and what they're hoping for and what they're fearing and all of this. And it's tricky, to take all of, let's say, Aragon's internal desires and battles and concerns, and then to dramatize that, to externalize that in ways, or to work it into the dialogue. To go back to book 5, for example, for a moment, one of the things that I've always been wary of when it comes to writing new material in this world is not wanting to just write it for the sake of writing it, but to always have a clear idea of whatever the story is. Because it's really easy to keep saying, oh, well, and then this happens, and then this happens. But, Aragon and the sequels have a very clear story. It's Aragon's story, and we know what that story is. It's him growing up, becoming a dragon rider, gaining understanding and empathy, and all of that comes into play at the very end when he has to confront Galbatorix once and for all. And with any future books, book 5 or any others, it needs to have that same level of clarity when it comes to what the story is, and not just a series of events that continue to develop the world and the characters, but that actual story. We could look at the new Star Wars trilogy as an example. It's very hard to look at Rey's story or Finn's story and say what exactly it is, because it kind of changed from film to film, given the process of how they were written and what happened behind the scenes. It's not as cohesive as Luke's story, where you look at the original trilogy, you know what Luke's story is. I mean, heck, even the prequel trilogy, with Anakin, you know what that story is also. We could argue that maybe it could have been executed differently, but we really know what that story is.
Yeah.
So those are just some examples. You could point to many, many others. So that's one thing that I spend a lot of time thinking about when it comes to any books I'm writing, especially ones in the world of Aragon, is, what is the actual story? Yes, lots of stuff can happen, but what is the story for the main character or characters?
Point A to point B type of stuff.
Yeah, and it can be very simple. It can be very simple at its heart, but knowing what that concept is gives you something to focus your energies on. And then hopefully when the main character achieves whatever they're trying to achieve or becomes whatever they need to become, it's a natural result of everything they've gone through. And that's hard to do. But and in order to structure it as such, you have to know what it is you're shooting for.
Yep, definitely agree.
I've got a question here that you touched on a bit in the previous question. It was just someone asking if you're open to doing a screen adaptation of To Sleep in a Sea of Stars, which we know is something that's in the works.
Yes, there's some stuff happening on there I can't talk about, but I'm open to seeing the very best possible adaptation of To Sleep in a Sea of Stars, whatever shape that takes. I I just saw you tweeted, Twitter staff have written a blurb for Aragon Remake.
Yes.
Oh, I see. It's the...
So it means a human has had to intervene and write something for that.
Very cool. Yeah, Aragon fans push Disney for a remake. Nice. Yeah, so to go back to sleep, again, I don't want to go into details too much because stuff's in the works at the moment, but the challenge with To Sleep and a Sea of Stars, as we always knew it would be, is the length of the book. It's essentially a series in one book form. So figuring out how to deal with that properly is the great challenge of adapting it.
The next question I have, which was, it's quite an old question. I think it was asked when we were talking about the fertility of dragon riders. Someone asked, what about Aragon and Arya possibly having kids? Is there anything to that?
They could. I mean, there's nothing theoretically preventing that, given what we know at the moment. But, and of course, there's the question of how Aragon's transformation during the Blood Oath ceremony might affect things. But theoretically, it's possible.
Next up, who are the mysterious hooded creatures on Rowengard?
They are creatures, beings who live on Rowengard at the moment and are have been affected by the fallout, magical and otherwise, on that island. And I think they're definitely one of the reasons why Aragon did not want to go back there for the reestablishment of the Dragon Riders.
Yeah. Because he doesn't know who they are and what they want, and also he's not the type of person who would just wipe them out or try and relocate them, because that's their place now.
Yeah, and Aragon, there are certain things Aragon doesn't want to deal with at the moment, and there are deep forces at work in Alagaesia, as Aragon himself learned with the Eldenari.
That's true.
I'm just skimming the Twitter feed here.
Here's an interesting question. So I have a question, but I may be wrong. I remember Galbatorix and Morzan went to the same academy. And what kind of person was Morzan before he served Galbatorix?
Ooh, well, that's something that I'd address if I ever wrote that story about Brahm's life. But, I mean, Morzan was flawed. I mean, he was proud and prickly and, you know, acted as a bit of an older brother to Brahm, but not always the best older brother, if that makes sense. So, you know, the seeds of his downfall were in his character to begin with. And once Galbatorix rose to power, he was able to appeal to those flaws in Morzan's character, which let Morzan give sort of full voice to his own arrogance and cruelty and, at times, anger.
That's right. So it was actually Brom and Morzan who were at the Rider Academy at the same time.
Well, they all went to the same... They were all trained ultimately in the same place, places by the same people. For Galbatorix was just earlier than Morzan and Brahm. I mean, he was like the generation before.
So a question about you. If you had a dragon hatch for you, what would you name it? what color would it be? And what would the name of your sword be? Would you prefer a male or female dragon?
Hold on.
There's quite a few questions in
Well,
there.
I'm just typing something here. I'm gonna be just horrendously obvious with this. I'd love a blue/purple dragon, female, named Saphira. And if I had a sword, well, actually, I'd either name it Brissinger or Hringling, which is derived from the word hring, which is the Old Norse word for the sound that rain makes when it hits metal.
I like that. Oh, another personal question. How do you balance your writing with your family life, especially now with a baby? I have a kiddo and it's like there's no time or energy left for any writing at the end of the day.
There's no time left for anything. It's just, time management is one of the great skills that any adult needs, and especially if you're in a creative profession where you need a certain amount of time to focus on your work in order to really sink into it and write/create well. So having a routine is extremely helpful, and that's what I strive to do. So sleep, even if sleep's compromised, just trying to work consistently and work as much as you can. Having a reason to work certainly helps. It cuts down. It's amazing how much time you waste if you're not motivated or you're not really interested in the work. So having a real reason to work helps. But, if you can find an hour a day to write, you can do a lot of work in an hour, especially if you've thought about what you're going to write before you sit down to actually write. If you can get more than that, that's awesome. But you can also think of it in the amount you write. If you can write a page a day, that adds up pretty quickly over the course of a year. If you can write 1,000 words a day, you'll have a book larger than To Sleep in a Sea of Stars, larger than Inheritance by the end of a year. So 1,000 words a day is really, really good. And it's not as much as you think if you know what you need to write. If you don't, you're going to be sitting there banging your head on the keyboard trying to figure it out as you write. So don't waste your time. Figure out what you need to write and then write it.
That's some good advice. Just in general for everyone, really.
Yeah, but
Sorry, I'm back. I have to move for a
balancing
bit.
life and work and everything is always a challenge.
I saw this question earlier. I forgot who asked it. About of all the fantastic animals and creatures in Alagaesia, aside from dragons, do you have any favorites?
Yeah, I do. I really like how creepy the Nightwall are, the sea serpents. I like the
True. Yeah, we did
Feldenost.
mention that last time.
Yeah, I like the Feldenost, the mountain goats in the Bjor Mountains. I'm particularly fond of the burrow grubs just because of how incredibly creepy they are. And the giant snails, the Snoggly. So I like all the creatures ultimately, but those are some of the ones I'm particularly fond of.
This reminded me of it is not a creature, but the idea of a flying tiny leaf boat floating randomly in Alagaesia amuses me a lot. I just like thinking of people stumbling upon it and being like, "Huh, what's that?"
Yeah, I actually nearly wrote. It didn't work out with the stories I wanted to tell, but I nearly wrote The Fork, the Witch, and the Worm entirely structured around the ship of grass as it floats around different parts of the world. And I might do another short story collection in that vein.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite bits. Technically, there are 2 ships of grass. There was the first one Arya made, I think, when she and Aragon were returning from the Empire in Brissinger. And then there's the ship of grass that she made when she sent it to him, telling him to
Yeah.
come meet her in Firnin at the end of Inheritance.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Which actually tripped me up when I was writing Forkwitch Worm, because I had to remember which which ship I was talking about.
Oh, I mean, I can imagine the more you write about these, about the inheritance cycle in general, the more you need to keep track of everything you've wrote.
It's a lot, especially since I tend to be a writer that puts a lot of detail into stuff, and I'm always mentioning this or that, and so it is a lot to keep track of. And I think that at some point I'm gonna have to reread the series, which I have never actually done, in order to have it all in my head.
For a second.
It's all right.
I was saying, yeah, that definitely. I'd love to hear your opinion on your own books once you reread them. Quite interesting.
I mean, I've avoided it because I don't really. All I can see are the things I want to do better, so it's hard to enjoy the work, you know.
Yeah.
There are parts I enjoy, of course. You know, every once in a while I'll read a chunk of it and go, "Hey, you know that did what I wanted it to do." But yeah, it's hard. It's hard for me, and there are so many outside associations I have with the work. You know, the life I was having. You know, life events. What I was feeling and going through when I wrote the books. So that always plays into it as well. It's very, you know, I can't just read it as a book.
Yeah, yeah. I'm amused by people seeing the artwork and thinking it's a screenshot from the show, and I'm like, I thought I made it obvious enough that it wasn't, but
I know, right? That's a great piece of fan art.
Thank you. I'm not, you know, I know this sounds repetitive at this point, but I am not entirely happy with it for multiple reasons. But in the time that I had for it, at least I have something, and yeah,
Oh, you're the one
fairly
who did
happy with
it?
it.
You're the one who made it?
Yeah.
I lost track of who posted it originally.
Yeah. the Aragon shooting the fire bow, yeah, that's me.
Yeah. No, I really liked that. And also people who thought the fake header from Disney Plus with the Aragon text.
That was so good.
That was from David Boland 1. That one.
I think it just makes the hash, like the event, more interesting in a way. Makes people talk about it in a funny way.
I like this one. Someone on Twitter just commented. He says, "You said you only saw your bad parts. Can you help me find them? Because I can't. What parts would you rewrite?" Aw, that's very nice of you to say that.
I'm actually looking forward to reread the books at some point. I'm waiting a bit longer, but I can sense the, you know, that feeling of, ooh, might want to reread them again. just wait a bit longer, but
yeah, you know, there are some books I get like with that. Every once in a while, it just feels right to pick them up again and Revisit an old friend.
Exactly.
Well, for a tweet storm that didn't have any advance notice, I think we're doing pretty well.
And also the Olympics, which I didn't even think about.
Right. There's always something going on.
2 million tweets.
Oh my god.
Wow.
How do people have so much to say about the Olympics?
Well, it's more just that there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's
All
true.
the different countries have a certain amount of people interested in the Olympics.
Mhm.
So we have a question. Did Angela know Murtagh, and did they ever meet?
You know, I can't remember.
That's a good question, actually, yeah.
I can't remember. I don't think they met during the series.
When would they have met? Oh, my food is here. Be right back.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think they actually met during the series. Because Murtagh left before the end material after the battle of Galbatorix. And of course, he was at the Burning Plains, and Angela was there also, but at opposite sides. So they may have met prior to the events of the Inheritance cycle. But they're certainly going to cross paths after Inheritance, one way or another.
Speaking of the food that Maxime's just gone to get, since this tweet storm was a bit of a surprise, I hope you've already had your breakfast.
I have not, but I'm got my second cup of coffee, so I'm
okay.
good.
Yes, it's pretty deja vu, this whole situation.
It's awesome. And for anyone who's listening, thank you to the fan base, thank you to everyone who's participating. I mean, we're trending again, and that's pretty awesome. Makes a huge difference.
Next up on the list of questions, are there any actors or actresses that you would love to see in the Aragorn remake?
You know, I feel as if I'm a bit out of touch. I have not been able to keep up with a lot of current movies or television shows because of work over the past 2 years. I've been thinking of Sean Bean would make a good Bronn these days because we all know what happens to Sean Bean in stories.
Yes.
And that might be a nice. And he's a good actor. He's a really good actor.
He is.
And I think he's the right amount of grumpy these days for Bronn. Back in the day, I was always thinking Patrick Stewart or Sean Connery would have been good as Bronn, but Sean Bean would be good. You know, as far as the rest of the cast, I mean, it's again a lot of the actors I originally wanted for the roles are now too old for them, so we'd have to start from scratch. Aragorn would have to be a new actor or pretty much almost new actor. Arya would be tricky. She's a really tricky one. Peter Dinklage would be great as Hrothgar. I think he'd do a great job.
Yeah, I can see that.
But yeah, I mean, everyone else, no one specifically is jumping out at me. I don't know if he's too old now, but Guy Pearce was always my first choice for Durza.
So I was just replying to her tweet. Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah. Not a great answer, I realize, but that's something that a lot more work would have to be put into that. in terms of, choosing actors, looking who would be available, and finding a good cast.
Yeah. There are people who are very up to date, who know how to do that.
Yeah, and sorry. One of the big things is creating a sense of authenticity. It's very easy for me at least, to break the sense of immersion when the actors don't feel like they're part of the world, or they feel very much like they're from a certain part of the real world in a way that doesn't fit with the material. So that would be a challenge, and I think that's always a challenge with this sort of a work, because you can't just cast someone with a New York accent or this or that, and then it ends up feeling wrong, really, really wrong.
Oh, someone in Discord has pointed out that Murtagh and Angela would have met in the Dragon Hold when Aragorn was injured after the battle in Farthen Dûr.
That's right. That is right.
So whether that was for the first time or whether they might have known about each other before then, we don't know.
I'm guessing that would be the first time.
Hmm. I was going to say earlier, I think having famous actors for a show or a movie can actually be detrimental to it sometimes.
It can, but if you it can, but if you cast them to the appropriate role, it usually works. And the other thing is it brings in financing. That's ultimately the reason. It brings in financing, so people are willing to spend money to get the show made, and people are more likely to watch something with actors they know.
Yeah.
So someone's just told me there's lots of questions in the YouTube live chat. So if you want to ask questions, or even if you don't have Twitter, someone else can post them for you. Just put them on Twitter with the Aragorn Remake hashtag and tweet at MCAlagaesia and at Paolini, and we'll answer them there. It's just good to keep them all in one place.
Any YouTube questions you want to throw my way?
I do have a couple more from Twitter, which we could finish off first. How was it possible for Brom to kill Morzin and his dragon without Saphira? Did he use a particular kind of spell or something like that? Now, if this Brom story does go ahead, maybe it's a bit of a spoiler, so I think I know the answer.
No,
but
it's
interesting.
It's totally a spoiler. Totally a spoiler, and I can't get into it. Let's just say it was a combination of Brom being very clever, which he was, very angry, which he was.
He was at that.
But he also knew Morzan very well, and that knowledge of Morzan is ultimately what let Brom defeat him.
Big Brom energy.
Exactly. That's actually my main motivation for writing a Brom story would be the ultimate confrontation between Brom and Morzan. That's why I would want to write it, because it would be the culmination of Brom's personal journey in so many ways, and it would free him of his past. And I just imagine it being this absolutely amazing sequence. And of course, Jode would be there, hiding behind some crates at some point. If anyone's read To Sleep, that was a little mention there.
I still haven't. But I have more time now, so I want to do that.
Awesome.
Next up, will you ever name a child or pet after a character in the inheritance cycle? You mentioned your cat, and I thought it would be funny if you had a cat named Grimmer, Maud, or Salimbum. And I think they might have forgotten about Maximus Chaticus Stronghammer.
Yes, that's the internet name for our son, Maximus Chaticus Stronghammer. Probably not. Like with cats and stuff. I mean, it's like looking at your own art on the wall or reading your own books. So
yeah,
a good question.
We also have a question: when or when and where did you hear about this tweet storm?
Well, I heard about it from you.
And it sounds like it was just 5 minutes before it started.
Yeah, well, I heard about it from you. You mentioned it, was it on Skype a few days ago? But I completely lost track of the days, and then didn't realize it was today. And then I saw the tweet from from the MCAlagaesia account, and I realized that something was probably up. And I clicked through the link and saw the timer and went, "Oh, that's
no.
today."
Yeah, a storm
So-
was brewing.
A storm was brewing. I see that we are now at 3,500 tweets.
Oh, wow.
I'm gonna. Tweet about that.
The next person doesn't really have a question, more of a statement about the continued existence of the Razak and whether you have any comment.
No comment.
No comment, so.
No comment. So I'm a bit of a Minecraft nerd, and there's a
Don't we know?
famous anarchy server called 2B2T, I think.
I'm
something like
familiar.
that. Yeah, and anyway, they have been going through a meltdown recently because there was a huge exploit that finally got revealed that a bunch of hackers had been using to basically track the other players and find their bases and destroy their stuff and steal their stuff and all of that. And the name of the exploit, and I absolutely love this, they named the hack/exploit, they named it No Comment.
Oh,
So when one of them was asked, like 2 years ago or something, how they were doing whatever they were doing, he just said no comment. And everyone thought he was declining to comment, which just tickles me.
that's cool. Yeah, I like exploit names. I'm listening to a podcast called Darknet Diaries, which covers a lot of that operational security sort of stuff and exploits and things. And the names people come up with for exploits are really funny sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I just actually built myself a full... I had an Enderman XP farm off my end island, which, it was okay to start with, but it just took too long to get levels back. I mean, who wants to wait, a minute to get 30 levels when you could do it in 20 seconds or something? So I built myself I think it was from Ilmango, I built myself a full-on piglin XP farm, but it's in the overworld, so it works entirely through spawning via portals, and it doesn't affect the mob cap. So you can have a mob switch activated and still get your XP because the piglins still spawn in the portals. So it's a huge, ridiculous. It's like 35,000 blocks of obsidian or something, which I got through my piglin trading hall, which is saves a lot of time. So I built it up not long ago, and then I put a lightning machine on the top. I don't know if you know this, but in vanilla Minecraft, you can actually trap a bunch of... I got this from DocM77 on the Hermitcraft server, but you can actually trap a whole bunch of tridents with a zero tick piston, and you can trap all the tridents at the end of a lightning rod. And if the tridents have channeling enchantment, basically whenever there's a thunderstorm, you can pull down a bolt of lightning for every trident, and it just constantly hits. It's like a giant Tesla machine. So I put that on the top of my XP farm, and it looks awesome.
Gives evil lair vibes.
I might tweet it and a picture of it. That's actually what I was going to say. I totally didn't make an evil XP farm.
I can't wait to see that.
So I'm now up at like 320 levels or something, 340 levels of XP, something like that.
Someone is asking about the chance of future book signings in various locations, maybe after COVID.
I'm vaccinated, so I'm a lot more comfortable doing public events now, but it's really going to be up to whether or not my publishers feel as if it's worth doing public events. Like, okay, if they schedule one, will people actually show up, right? So, and then of course I'd have to decide whether or not I would feel comfortable traveling and doing a public event at this point. I think everyone's just kind of waiting a little bit, and
Yeah.
we're all feeling safer and things are in a better place, but we're just waiting to see where things are at in a couple of months. So I know I'm going to do public events for To Sleep in a Sea of Stars and just in general at some point. The question is just when that's going to ramp back up. And it really was weird to launch a book and not do a big, book tour. It was going to be probably the biggest one of my career for To Sleep, and it didn't happen, at least not in the way that we planned. We did a huge online tour, which was awesome.
Next question. Morzan and Galbatorix killed a rider to get Shuriken as a hatchling. Who was that rider?
I've never specified, but it was an elf, and I've never given the name, but it was another young novice who, had just become bonded with, had just become bonded with their dragon. So they weren't able to put up much of a fight when Galbatorix came after them. Any questions off YouTube?
YouTube. Let me bring up the tab. Okay, there was a question about... Looks like some of these we've already answered. I'm just scrolling up a bit.
I am back. Sorry for that. I was eating.
That's important.
No worries.
Yes, I once again ended up ordering food because I did not want to miss anything.
A general writing question. How do you know or decide when a book is finished and ready to be released?
Well, there are a couple of ways. One would be you're simply out of time. You work until you're out of time. But the rule of thumb I usually go with is when I start changing things back to the way they were in earlier versions over the course of the editing, that's usually when I'm done. It means at that point I'm just fiddling. There's ultimately it's a gut feeling, and you have to go off what your feedback from your editor and your own feelings, but you do your best.
Yeah, it's a good answer. I think a similar question was asked in the previous stream, and you gave a similar answer. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's a good process.
It's the same with art. It's the same with art. When you start, erasing and redoing stuff you've done 1,000 times already, or that was already fixed, then you're probably just making it worse.
Yeah. Another question from YouTube. I love the creatures in Alagaesia. There are several of them, fantastic animals. Aside from dragons, what is your favorite of them?
Oh yeah, and that's the question I asked earlier.
Oh, okay. Was that answered?
Yeah.
Okay, I must have missed that.
No worries.
Okay, so obviously
understandable.
Everything else is done, so I'm going to look out at the bottom. Yeah, I think a lot of these questions people cross-posted over to Twitter. We've answered most of them.
Oh my god, someone else saying that there's an Aragon TV show. No, there isn't. Oh god. That's hilarious. I guess sarcasm is hard to convey through text.
Well, that's why on Reddit they always do a slash and then an S to indicate sarcasm, because otherwise you can't tell.
Another question from Twitter. Did every dragon rider have Runon make a single sword, or did some dual wield swords? Or did someone use hammers, axes, and spears?
There were other weapons made aside from swords, but I think you would have had to do some awfully fast talking in order to get Runon to make more than one weapon for you. You would have to have a very convincing reason.
Yeah.
Maybe bring her some extra stuff.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And did every rider get a sword made by Runon? Or was it only very
No,
rare?
they all did.
So they all did.
They all got a weapon. It was almost like a badge of office. You graduate, you're a full rider. Here's your weapon. So.
And all made of bright steel?
Yes, but keep in mind there weren't that many riders ultimately.
Yeah.
So it was a manageable number over the years.
Yeah, because if you consider that there's hundreds of Eldenari, and they are pretty much, like, once they come into being, they are there forever unless they're destroyed. Since, like, that means that at any one time, there's not that many riders at all.
Exactly.
So what would you say?
And some of those Eldenari were wild dragons.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So as a percentage, if there were 12 for Sworn, how many, like, would there be triple, quadruple?
I don't feel comfortable giving an exact number at the moment because I'd have to really look at that exact time period and decide.
Yeah.
But, obviously there weren't enough riders that they were able to just overwhelm Galbatorix and the Forsworn. And that actually was a huge problem in Alagaesia, and one I feel like I still struggled with a little bit, which is the fact of if you have predators the size of dragons, finding enough food for them is always going to be a challenge. So, again, the dragons don't reproduce particularly fast, and each one needs a huge amount of space to support it and live, especially as they get larger. But they also don't eat that often. They tend to, sort of gorge and then sort of rest, digest for a decent amount of time.
And especially as they get older, like Belgabad, for example, was mostly sleeping.
Yeah, the older and the larger the dragon, the more time it tends to spend sort of curled up on a roost somewhere, not necessarily sleeping or hibernating, but observing and thinking long, deep, slow thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, I can imagine it's a bit like any creature, really. As they grow, they probably need more food than, when they've reached a certain size where they can sort of settle. And I'm just thinking of teenagers, who eat a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the I've mentioned more than once that the dragons never stop growing, which is true, but that growth is governed by the availability of food. So if you had let's say a 3-year-old dragon, and there just isn't that much food available, their growth will be much slower than a 3-year-old dragon that can eat all the sheep it wants. And as they get older and larger, the growth slows dramatically. It might actually be like a logarithmic regression.
Yeah.
It never stops, but it just slows. And eventually you could say there is an upper cap just in terms of practicality. Just how many calories do you need to actually increase the size? And as you said, it takes fewer calories to maintain your size versus to grow.
Yeah. That's scary. The thought of a dragon that just never stops growing.
Well, I took that from dinosaurs, actually. There is some evidence that like T-Rexes and Triceratops and some other dragons never actually stopped growing over the course of their life, but the growth was governed by the availability of calories. And of course, in the real world, once you reach a certain size, the square cube law and the physics of it make any size increase exponentially more difficult. The bones can't handle it, the muscles can't handle it, etc. But there might always be some small amount of growth.
Yeah. It's always nice to have, I guess, practical, quote unquote, scientific, explanations for these things alongside the magical aspect of dragons. It's nice to have, a bit of a mix to just add
I
to
try.
the believability of it. Yeah. I mean, it's important. I think it's interesting to think of that instead of just saying, "Oh, it's magic," you know.
Yeah. Well, and it's a mix. I mean, and that's actually one reason why I put the Nidewall and the Fanghor
Mhm.
in the books, because it's like, well, okay, if dragons exist, then there would be other related species, just like we have in the real world with every species. They're we're all related in some way. So, trying to think of ways to make that semi-realistic.
Yeah. I personally, it is definitely one of my favorite creatures as well. That feeling when they're on the sea and this humongous creature underneath, and it truly makes you feel tiny and insignificant all of a sudden. It's scary in a nice way.
Well, in my opinion, is that's how you ought to feel in the ocean.
Yep.
Everyone has
Yep.
this feeling like the dinosaurs were absolutely enormous and there were all these huge animals in the past, and we no longer live in an era like that. But the largest animal to ever live, as far as we know, exists right now, and it's the blue whale. And the
Mhm.
blue whale is larger than any dinosaur.
It's crazy.
He's a big chunk.
Yeah, things are very different in
Oh.
water where you have all the support.
Mhm.
The upper bound on size is just way larger.
Well, and it seems to be as the body increases to that size, or any stage, in between, the brain has to increase in size to handle the increase in sensory information. So the visual auditory centers of a blue whale's brain are massive compared with ours, because they're getting so much sensory information. You could even think about it like a camera. Their eyes are so big that the sensors at the back of those eyes are taking an enormous amount of information. So you have to process that, and same for all the nerve information, and it doesn't mean, and that's why, just because they have a much bigger brain doesn't mean that they're as intelligent, because it is also seems to be a function of brain size as a proportion to body size, and then of course the structure of the brain itself. So it's all very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I don't know how I would react just seeing one of those creatures in real life in front of me.
I do. It would be run away,
Yeah.
run away. Never enter the water. Nope.
Try to swim away. Uh,
Exactly. No. Oh, we got some good memes being tweeted right now.
Ooh, I realized I completely forgot to post the thing on Instagram.
Oh, yeah. Spread the love.
Yes.
Meanwhile,
I'm not generally very good with social media, but I'm trying to force myself to,
Yeah, and it is worth cross-posting, because as I heard from a Facebook rep, they have studied this and discovered that if you have followers on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and let's say YouTube, you only get about 10 to 15% crossover between the different media platforms.
Yeah.
So
Everyone
it's
has
that
their
low.
preferred place.
Yeah, so if you post something on Twitter, odds are no one sees it on Instagram or elsewhere. Yeah, I'm seeing, so Doctor Who is trending right now. It's got 11,000 tweets, and that's Doctor Who. So we had way more than that for the last tweet storm, and we got a decent amount right now.
Yeah, we had 55,000 before it stopped trending, and who knows how many more came in afterwards.
It's still...
It's probably still trending in some places.
It's insane.
So if another question, if there were to be a remake, how involved would you like to be in the creative process?
Well, it would depend on how involved I am in other projects like To Sleep or another book or something like that. But that said, if Aragon were getting rebooted, it would really be one of my top priorities, along with writing whatever book I'm working on at the moment. It's an incredibly important project and process for me, and I would want to have my fingers in it as much as possible. So that really is the answer. I would be involved as much as the people financing it would let me be involved. I know I would be an executive producer, and I know I would probably write the script, at least for the first episode, along with Angela. And hopefully I could be in the room when it came to, character design, the world design, costumes, music, all of that, because I have a lot of, I've had years and years, decades of thinking and collecting material for that, thinking on that and collecting material on that.
I cannot express how... I mean, obviously, I don't relate to the same level because I didn't write the books, but yeah, I would love to get involved in some way.
Well, and that's the thing. We have, like Malta and you and everyone. I mean, we have so many people who are enthusiastic about the work that's the sort of pool of talent I would love to draw from. And that's what we didn't have when the first film was made. That fandom just didn't exist in the same way. And I'm really hoping that there are people who feel that, as you do, who are now working in Hollywood, who are working at Disney, who are, would like to see a remake as well. I mean, because they, the books have been around long enough that should be an actual possibility.
Definitely, yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, because the people who read the series as children are getting of that age now where they're in those workforces and moving up in the ranks of Hollywood and Disney.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. I'm doing some math here. So ignoring the self-published edition of Aragon, Aragon came out, Aragon came out 18 years ago. So, if you were 15 at the time, that would mean you are now, 33.
Yeah, that's...
So you could certainly be in the full swing of your professional career.
Yeah, that is potentially a senior or close to senior level artist working in the industry.
And it's some of the concept artists I've worked with for To Sleep, and we've been releasing that concept art on fractalverse.net. Yeah, they grew up reading Aragon. They're big fans of Aragon. So it's been a lot of fun to work with them.
That is good to know.
Yeah. Well, and this is where a lot of authors, arrive later in their lives with their career. But because I started so early, it's happening a little younger in my life, which is nice. Hopefully can be around to enjoy some of this a little sooner. But that said, now really is the time for a remake because I think if Disney waits we're going to miss the window for the nostalgia and for the fans. You know, the generation is changing, and now's the time.
True. Yeah. Ideally, in the next, I don't know, 5 years, maybe, like something like that. Maybe a bit more if you. I don't know.
Hopefully less. I mean,
Yeah.
ideally 3 years is where I
Ideally.
would like to see. Because, and I say 3 years because if we started the process right now, we'd have to negotiate. We
Yeah.
would have to start writing, you know, the episodes, go into pre-production, and then once production happens, you know, the marketing and the release. You know, three years actually is pretty reasonable. You could do it sooner if there was a real push, but I mean, look at how long. I don't know how much you've stayed in touch with this, but if you, you know, I've been hearing about the Amazon Lord of the Rings series for years now, and they're, you know, they're wrapping up production. It's actually getting pretty close to coming out, but it's taken a long time to get to that point.
It has.
They're also
True,
spending $500 million on it, so
Well,
Yeah.
you know, that's Amazon.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. That is very true.
I had a magical sciencey question from someone. Would dragonfire be inherently magical or some sort of chemical reaction that is natural? They ask because it's a big debate in the Dungeons and Dragons community as to whether or not dragonfire should be magical or natural.
you know, I don't think I never specified in the books. My feeling was that it was always biological, but there may be, and the reason I'm tempering my answer is there may be some small element of magic in it, whether in ignition or formation of the gases that are used. And I say that simply because my dragons are inherently magical. They have sort of they use the energy around them and the energy within them almost constantly without realizing it. That's how they're able to fly without having while being as dense as they are. You know, if they were flying simply through physics alone, as we know it, their wings would have to be a lot larger and their bones would have to be a lot lighter. Their bodies would be pretty fragile for their size.
Yeah.
So they're using magic to fly even without realizing it. So there may, from that point of view, there may be some magical component to their flame, but it's not entirely magical. I mean, they have a biological process for creating the gases and liquids necessary to breathe fire. Good question.
Good answer.
Yeah, I mean, I think I always kind of saw it or understood it that way. So I think that's been.
Yeah, I mean, I really try to avoid the explaining stuff just with magic, and also the magic has a cost to it. So saying it's magic doesn't. It's not a get out of jail free card. You know, it doesn't actually get you anything for free. It
Yeah.
makes it easier to do certain things that would be very difficult to do physically, but you still have to pay for it.
Mhm.
This is another question I think we answered in the previous tweet storm, but it's interesting nonetheless. What happened to the belt of Beloth the Wise and to Aramis's body and sword?
So the belt is book 5. You'll find out in book 5. The sword is something I've actually always wanted to write a certain story about. I have the story planned out, but it hasn't been recovered. As of the end of Inheritance, it hadn't been recovered.
That's interesting.
And well, actually, maybe. Well, I don't want to give you any details, but that tells you at least where I'm thinking. As for what was the other part of that?
Aramis's body and sword.
Aramis's body. Again, this was the first draft of Inheritance. I wrote a scene where, or I mentioned that the elves buried Aramis under a tree by Gilead. And I believe that is in the special edition of Inheritance. the deluxe edition of Inheritance. I believe I put that back in.
Okay. So then his sword would have been covered with all the energy as well?
If it were recovered, then whatever energy was in the sword would still be in the sword. Now I want to look this up, see if it was in that deluxe edition. 1 second. But yeah, I wrote that, and I tweeted that actually a while back. I tweeted that paragraph or two. Let's see, deluxe editions, Inheritance. Boy, it is strange looking back at Inheritance.
Wait, no, what am I doing?
You know, I'm not finding it, but I know I wrote something with Ormus being buried. Maybe it was in Brissinger. I will dig it up and I'll tweet it again.
I know there was a paragraph about one of Blodgarm's elves being buried under a tree, or a tree was planted on the...
Yeah, that might be what I'm conflating this, but I know I had something with Ormus. You know, it might have actually been one of the early drafts that I didn't get published, but I know I did release it at some point. I'll dig it up again, as I said, and tweet it again at some point.
That'd be good to see.
So, well, on that note, I think I am going to wrap things up here. I have writing to do and editing to do, and as much as I am enjoying this, I do have to get back to that.
I mean,
so
none of this was planned, so...
No.
Well, it was, but, you know.
Well, yeah, but not the stream part.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always good to talk about the series and plans for the future. Theories, questions. Yes. It's really fun.
No, this was a lot of fun, and hey, we got the hashtag trending again, so I consider that a success.
Definitely, same.
And same, I think with a little more advance notice and perhaps a little bit more of promotion of a tweet storm, we'd get an even bigger response next time.
Yeah.
If there's a next time.
Probably not for a while. This was just an interesting experiment I wanted to try with more of an incognito guerrilla style attack, so to speak.
Gotcha. Well, I say it worked because we ended up trending again. So
and I'm seeing people come through in the live feed. A lot of people are saying, a lot of people are seeing it for the first time. Like, oh, Aragon Remake is trending. And seeing Aragon Remake just brought back so many memories.
Amazing.
That's awesome. That is so awesome.
That's all you need. It's quite rewarding.
And like it's just fun to interact with the community in this way. So like even if nothing happens from it, it's a great event to have done not once but twice.
Well, I really am continue to be touched by enthusiasm and love that readers have for the series, and this has really just made me feel so much more connected with the
Hmm.
with the fandom. I found this paragraph I was looking for. So this is late in Inheritance. I didn't find this in the PDF for the deluxe edition, so I don't think it did get included. But I did share this. 2 days after he and Saphira alighted in what was now Illyria, Nasawada sent them out again, first to Gilead and then to Sionon, the two cities that the elves had captured, so that Aragon could again use the name of names to clear away Galbatorix's spells. Both Aragon and Saphira found Gilead unpleasant to visit. It reminded them of when the Urgles had captured Aragon at Durza's orders, and also of Ormus's death. While there, they visited the cairn where the elves had burned Glader's body, and then buried Ormus underneath a great oak tree that they had sung from the depths of the earth. All that Aragon could think to say before the thick trunk of the oak was a simple thank you, the same as he had said at his father's tomb.
Oh, I like that.
Perfect way to end this.
Yeah, it's not in even in the deluxe edition of Inheritance. I really should have fought to keep a couple of these smaller things, I think.
I mean, hey, I'm guessing it's not always an easy decision, and there's a lot to say. And
there was a lot to say, and there were, the pacing of Inheritance was something we were really looking at very hard, because it was such a long book, and there were so many things that could be in there. And it's funny because some people say, oh, it was wrapped up too fast, and some people say, oh, it was not wrapped up. There wasn't enough material in it. So we do our best.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe I'll screenshot that paragraph and share it with folks.
Yeah, definitely a good way to end it.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you, everyone. This was an absolute blast. We'll have to do it again sometime. And
And you said your thank yous, but thank you from me as well for coming in again, even with zero notice.
We're trending again.
Oh.
In entertainment with 4,200 tweets.
Nice.
Hold on, I gotta screenshot this and tweet this. It's you know what this is like the last tweet storm. It's like it just keeps on going.
I mean, yeah, it's the end of the stream, maybe, but it doesn't mean it's the end of.
No. I mean,
it will go on.
Yeah.
And again, the more people do this, I mean, this really does get attention. I mean, people write articles on this sort of stuff.
Oh, there were so many articles.
A lot of wrong ones, but it's still something, I guess.
Hey, no such thing as bad publicity, as they say.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks again, guys. We'll do this again soon, I hope, in one form or another. And again, thank you.
And thank you.
Have a nice day. Have a good night to you, actually, Jack.
Yes, thank you.
Yep. All right, and thank you to all the readers. We'll talk soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
All right, bye.
Saw the words within his mind, dragons and danger lurking inside. It was the story of our youth, Slyfox said he could tell the truth. Those beloved was brought to light. Then the clouds rolled in, riding the winds of change. And they brought the thunder. Upon the stage, it's nothing like the story we knew. So we think it's time for our new script.